All right, we're going to do number 10 as soon as it loads. We're going to do number 12, and we're going to do number 15. So let's look at 10. Let's make sure I don't draw on my hand here. All right, angle A is congruent to angle C. Notice we're proving AD congruent to CD. So we're trying to prove, I'll mark it with circles, AD congruent to CD. We're trying to prove those. Or you can put little question marks right there. Right? That's what we're trying to prove. So I'm probably going to have to get the triangles congruent first, and then use CP, CTC to show that those are congruent to each other. So angle A is congruent to angle C. That's a given. And then BD bisects angle ABC. Given. So what's being bisected? The angle is being bisected, ABC. So use your finger right now, trace out A to B to C. So if I use my finger here, I'm going from A to B to C. So this angle right here is being bisected, giving us two congruent angles. It's going to look like this. ABD is congruent to DBC. If bisecting congruent. Okay. Now, there's a couple different things we can do. We know we could actually finish the proof pretty quickly here. You could either do the reflexive property and have angle, side. You could do that if you want to. I'm not going to do that. What I'm going to do, let me erase some of this. Let me erase these things here. So I could have reflexive and get angle, side. What I'm going to do, though, is I'm going to use our new theorem, and I'm going to say AB is congruent to BC. And then I can draw my picture. So I was given angles, and now I prove sides congruent. So that can be your little picture. Remember, if it's iso, you can get the sides congruent, and you can get the legs congruent. Sorry, you can get the base angles congruent. If you have the base angles congruent, you can get the legs congruent. If you have the legs congruent, you can get the base angles congruent. And then you can work backwards and figure out that it's iso too. So we don't have to say anything about isosceles here, though. So now the triangles are congruent. Triangle. Now I'm going to start with A, then go to B, then go to D. This is congruent to triangle. So I would, if I start at A, I need to start at C for the other triangle, BD, because they're corresponding parts. And that's going to be angle, side, angle. If you use reflexive property, it would be side, angle, side, or angle, side, depending on what you use for your givens. And now we can go AD is congruent to CD because of CP, CTC. Corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. Okay. Moving on to this one, 12. So QT is perpendicular to TU, and QT is perpendicular to QR. So QR and QT are perpendicular, and QT and UT are perpendicular. So I can get angle Q and angle T are right. Because if perp, then right. And not only are they right, I can get angle Q congruent to angle T. Because if right, then congruent. UT and UR bisect each other. So, okay, UT and UR bisect each other. We only really need one of those, but both UT and UR are being bisected, right? You have to be kind of careful. Sometimes it says QT bisects UR, and sometimes they bisect each other. So if they bisect each other, I know that this is congruent to this, and that this is congruent to that. So QS is congruent to ST if bisecting congruent. And US is congruent to SR because if bisect, then congruent. And if you wanted to, you could also throw vertical angles in there, right? So if you do vertical angles, you get this congruent to this. You could do side angle side, angle angle side, or you could do hypotenuse leg. I'm not going to do that because I don't need it, right? I have everything I need right now. So I can say triangle RQS is congruent to triangle UTS because of hypotenuse leg, right? I have the hypotenuse US and UR, and then I have the legs TS and TR. So if you wanted to throw vertical in there, you could, and then you don't have to use hypotenuse leg. So there's a lot of different ways that you can do some of these proofs. Last one, this looks familiar, right? This is from pretty close to the one from your quiz, which is why I picked it. So PT bisects angle SPO. So take your finger and notice we're trying to get the triangles congruent. So we're not going to use CPCTC in this. Take your finger and trace out SPO, right? So S to P to O. So this needs to be the angle that I'm bisecting. A lot of people said the angle is being bisected, so PS is congruent to PO. Incorrect. I'm bisecting an angle. ST is not congruent to TO because of bisect. Even though they look congruent, they're not congruent based on my given, right? So we can say that angle from that first given, angle SPT, spit is congruent to angle OPT, opt, because if bisect, then congruent. SP is congruent to OP, that's given. And then finally TP is congruent to itself because of the reflexive property. Now if you look at the triangles, the angle is included. So angle STP, Stone Temple Pilots, is congruent to angle OTP through side angle side. We don't need CPCTC for this one. Okay, so hopefully that helps. Let me know if you have any questions.